Well, understanding them helps us get a holistic opinion and broadens our perspective. We may talk, hear and see a lot about specific parameters of specific properties affecting society in so and so manner, and people describing why this specific stuff is very important. But we need to understand how important is something that is changing or something that is evolving over time, or some decision being made. What is the overall contribution of it to the society? So for that, we must understand what are the major factors in the society and how much significance do you give to each of the factors. So it the whole objective with this structural framework which we will present is to empower us to think critically and form our own worldviews. We just provide you with the factors and you can put your own weights and biases to it. And since some of these factors are connected with each other, so you can um, so just by breaking them down into single parameters, you can at least get some kind of a clarity or some kind of a more structural way of thinking around it. So by exploring the complex web of economic systems, technological advancements, political cultures, political structures, cultural norms, and environmental challenges, we aim to equip you with the knowledge to navigate the world around us. So we are not here to tell you, oh, this is happening in the world. We are just telling you these are the factors, and then you put your own importance to the different factors about how important these factors tend to be. And the whole idea is this to be a journey by which we kind of take things in a structural format, and then we try to understand society better. So there will be 9 parameters. I'll go through all of them. So moving to parameter number one. So parameter number is the state. The state always has an enormous role in the society. At least in the modern times, it is very important. Historically, it is very important. Now, what is the state? Well, the welfare of the people is the ultimate law. This is something that has been believed by many. The state is basically the government. The state is the one that typically tries to make the rules. So, in many states, you will find the executive, legislative, and the judiciaries, and the rule of the law. They make the laws, and then they execute on the laws. They implement the laws, and then they do the. If somebody is unhappy with something going on, then they can go to the judiciary and ask for implementation of the law in the specific cases if they are unhappy with how things are being executed. In this, there is the separation of the power, and there are the checks and balance that are installed in the system. There is different variations to this whole system, but and you can see that in some cases these things are more unified than other places. But I mean, you can still kind of see that it is basically these set of activities that the state does. It makes rules, which is the legislative. It implements the rules, which is the executive, and it puts the checks and balances on the rules, which is the judiciary. Beyond the state part, which is a factor, which is the structure of the state, there are some things that influence the society a lot. Is the public services and the infrastructure. So provisions of essential services like healthcare, education, transport, these are quite a few times very influential in the society, and these factors are provided pretty much many times by the state. Some of this stuff can also be like corporates and like corporate universities, like private universities and private healthcare. But I mean, the state has a lot of role in these parameters typically. The policy making and the decision making in the processes is also something which is a very important factor. If there is a lobbying group, if there are formulations and implementation of policies through any structured pattern, is there any consultation groups, is there any specific pattern of analysis? So what is the structure by which policy is made? Understanding that as a factor is very important in understanding the influence of the state, or it's a very important factor that influence the state itself. Then the social welfare and the protection, ensuring the well-being of the individuals and community through support systems, safety nets, and social programs is also pretty much one of the very important part for for the state functioning and the influence of the state on the society. This makes people have the sense of safety and the sense of and the willingness to strive ahead once you provide them the safety net. So it is a very important factor in the overall structure of the state and the larger influence on society. And finally, of course, there is the defense and security, protecting the nation and its citizen from internal and external threats through military, law enforcement, intelligence, police, and everything. This is also a very big part of society which can have the influence on the people. So these are some of uh, this will give you some of the general things that the state represent, that a normal common human being working in a like a normal civilian population, a citizen of a country will kind of experience from the state. So these are some of the factors on the state. Moving on. So the next to the state we have the NGOs. So the NGOs are basically organizations which are typically mostly non-profit. They are non-governmental organizations, but they are most of the time, in general, they behave that they have a purpose. It could be something like human rights, it could be something like feminism, it could be like animal protection, it could be like environmental protection, it could be like climate change, it could be various kinds of um, social or economical or environmental causes for which it is working. These organizations are in general non-profit, and sometimes these organizations are also like there are NGOs, but there is also like intergovernmental organizations which are also kind of in the similar structure. So in here, one of the good quotes is that the power of one, if fearless and focused, is formidable, but the power of many working together is better. I really like this quote because NGOs typically work on a lot on voluntary basis, and trying to get a lot of people involved with the NGOs is one of the parameters that the NGOs find themselves to be very successful. Um, so yeah, now within the NGOs, the different parameters that we see that have a prominent role is like advocacy and activism, raising awareness, championing the cause to drive social and political change is very much driven by NGOs, whether it is bringing environmental regulations, whether it is supporting some kind of a project or highlighting the negative points which may have related to climate, related to biodiversity, related to local people's welfare. So there could be all kind of points on which activism can be done, that on which advocacy can be conducted. Then the second part I would say within the NGOs is so the activism is mostly interacting with the private companies or interacting with the state. The humanitarian aid and the development, providing assistance, resources, and support to communities in need to improve their well-being and foster sustainable development. So many times when you have technological development or when you have scientific learnings, these learnings are many times implemented into society by more humanitarian organizations. And sometimes there was like absolute need of humanitarian aid where there was somebody funding it, but sometimes it is also very voluntary. Like you get something and people set up a group, people want to create awareness about, oh, there is this stuff, there is a nice way to do agriculture, or have we learned something somewhere else and now we want to make people more aware. So there is this whole aspect of stuff. This is mostly more connected towards scientific development, changes in climatic situations, and sometimes it is also funded by specific organizations that will and that helps us promote that specific kind of an idea. The third point is community empowerment and engagement. So this is like normally when we see NGOs, we see climate change and all of that, or like some kind of an cause-based NGOs, but there is also a huge amount of encouragement and enabling of communities to actively participate in the decision-making process, taking ownership of their development. So many times, like the state has their policy making systems, and some of these policies are always very much actively advocated by the NGOs. And then the NGOs wants to have their own community developments, and they want to have their own community that is following the NGO, that is in a broad involvement with the NGOs. And this may not always be just to make rules, but it is always to create some kind of a larger bonding so that the NGOs have an influence on the has the support of the people and can grow thereafter. Social and environmental justice, working towards fairness, equality, and sustainability by addressing social disparity and environmental issues is again a very important factor on which broad conscious based collective conscious based and non-governmental organizations play a very vital role. Research and policy influencing, as highlighted by some of the other points, conducting research, generating evidence, and influencing policies to shape social, environmental, and political agendas are very much something that the NGOs do. So NGOs, you can say, is the voluntary part, very similar to state in some ways, but it is and a bit similar to companies in some ways, but it is the voluntary organizations that is just doing good, similar to stuff that state is trying to do, but the state is doing it by charging taxes and employing people. This is more something that is typically done in more voluntary basis. Then the third part is, of course, the society. For the society is the private corporations. And yeah, one thing that I really like about corporations is that they are not in the business of predicting the future; they create the future. So private corporations, they are involved in the economic production and the innovation, driving economic progress by efficiently producing goods and services and fostering innovation to meet the evolving market demands. And this is very well done by private companies and quite outpaid, quite quite a lot better than almost the state and any other institution that presently exists. Employment and job creation, playing a vital role in providing employment opportunity that contribute to individuals' livelihood and overall workforce. Again, to the overall job creation, the private companies have a very big role to play. Corporate and social responsibilities, acknowledging the responsibility to uphold ethical practices, environmental sustainability, and social well-being while conducting business operations. So this is like the CSR part of the business is that you do the business, you create the jobs, you sell your products, then you make your profit, and then you share a part of your profit with more social towards your social responsibilities. And sometimes these are also done. They are done in collaboration with NGOs. Sometimes it's the company itself doing it, but it's a part of the company's overall image, which also has its own influence on its share prices. The market competition and consumerism, encouraging healthy competition among businesses, which benefits consumers by offering a wide range of choices, promoting quality and affordability. So more competition, more production, and naturally there is a reduction in price. So there would be like bunch of products that you consume that you don't know how come so many different steps have taken place and it is still so cheap. So simply because other companies are also doing it and they are competing with each other or getting you to buy it. So the whole market competition plays a very important role. Also, when there are new products or new technologies coming in, then they are also trying to promote the use of it so that the market size increases, the people's desire to consume it increases, and therefore their business activities can grow. Environment and growth and economic growth. Of course, when all of these activities are happening, when you have job creations, when you have products being sold, when you have businesses running, then you are attracting investment and capital that fuel the economic expansion, drive business growth, and simulate overall economic prosperity. Society and culture. So culture is the intrinsic is the